everybody. Welcome to the weekly news recap for the 9th to the 15th of December 2024. Is the microphone really low? Possibly. Stand a bit closer to it, I guess. Right. Anyway. So, we have a new PC set up, so hopefully things will be alright, but we're still kind of ironing out some of the kinks. Anyway. This week, on Thursday, we had the Game Awards, or the Jeff ads, or the game ads, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, we're going to go through a bunch of trailers that were shown off during that. So, Ninja Gaiden, coming from the team behind Blasphemous. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit, because most of it is animation. So, this is going to be from the team behind Blasphemous 2. Ninja Gaiden, some people may not be familiar because it's been a while since it's had a new entry, but it is pretty hard side-scrolling ninja up. And then maybe some of the games that people might be a little bit more familiar with star this guy on the right, Ryo Hayabusa, which were 3D, extremely difficult ninja games. Actually, I'm not sure if it ever had a side-scrolling one. I might be confusing it with Shinobi. Certainly the games were known for being extremely difficult. Anyway, certainly fits into Blasphemous's wheelhouse. Anyway, we're going to have summer 2025, so it's going to be developed by the Blasphemous people, and it's going to be published by .emu, who are the people who have published Streets of Rage 4 and a bunch of other really well-received retro throwbacks. One Move Away is kind of unpacking, but then also Tetris in a way. So the deal is you're like moving house, moving apartment, moving whatever, and the gist of the game is just arranging all of your stuff in the boot of your car, and hopefully that works out okay. So it's got a bit of the unpacking vibe to it, except it's packing, I guess. It's the opposite one. It's the opposite to unpacking. You could play the two of them at the same time and maybe get the same vibe. Anyway, that's the deal with One Move Away. 2025 at some stage, demos to come later. Slay the Spire 2 we've seen enough of now. It's a deck building card battler kind of thing. Early access 2025. They showed off that there's maybe 4 different character types, possibly a few more along the way. Dave the Diver is getting some DLC where they're going into the jungle. That's kind of it. Didn't really show off any gameplay. Thick as Thieves is Warren Spector's new game. From the studio that he's set up a good few years ago. I'm a little disappointed. So Warren Spector is the guy behind like System Shock, Deus Ex, lots of immersive sims. And Thick as Thieves does seem to be going for the immersive sim vibe, but it is an online multiplayer thing, PvP thing. It's a little bit disappointing because I'm not going to play it now. Anyway, the deal with Thick as Thieves, it's like first person, Dishonored, Deus Ex. Dishonored is probably closer to it. Maybe. And the PvP element is that I think a couple of you, it's not clear how big the lobbies are, but you'll be competing against people to steal various items, artifacts, treasures, what have you. And you can obviously do this in multiple different ways. You can do the stealthy route and actually steal everything. You can just blast your way in and steal the thing, or wait for somebody else to steal it and steal it off them instead, and that kind of thing. As you can see, there's no gameplay or anything, so who knows. That will be a theme for the rest of the Game Awards. No gameplay. Shadow Labyrinth was a really weird one. If you don't already know or didn't see my highlight there on the other side of it, you might be wondering what this is, because it's meant to be the next entry in a legendary video game series. It's Pac-Man. The little guy following you is Pac-Man, basically, and you can use this little drone to essentially attack a lot of these guys. You're in a maze. It does have a bit of a Metroidvania vibe to it, but it does eventually become just basically Pac-Man after a while. Anyway, Shadow Labyrinth, 2025. It's meant to be sort of a tie-in with Secret Level, Amazon's video game anthology adaptation thing. I haven't seen the Pac-Man. I haven't seen any of the episodes, but I haven't seen the Pac-Man episode, and apparently it's a similar idea. Um, Steel Paws is the next game from Yu Suzuki. Yu Suzuki is the guy behind Shenmue. It's coming to Netflix Games 2025, which means it's probably going to be a mobile title. I'm not going to bother with the trailer because it's all animated. There's no actual gameplay. Kiora is from the Core Keeper people. It's like a colony sandbox is what they're going with, but it's kind of this um like pixel accurate destruction elements to it, and then pixel accurate reconstruction. So it's got a little bit of Red Faction with its destructible elements, and then obviously there's the Minecraft stuff, which you being able to just build blocks wherever you want. Um, it's also, as you can see, multiplayer lobbies and what have you. This is the gist of the trailer. It's just showing that you can essentially paint terrain. Um, how exactly it works, though, we don't know. It's also no year or release date set up for it yet. This one was pretty out there. So this is from I don't remember the name of the developer. The people who did Sifu and Absolver. I forget the name of the developer now. Anyway, as you can tell, it's not a combat game. It's a football game. So it's a 5v5, almost Rocket League like, except actually football instead of cars. I don't really like football games, but I kind of do want to play this one. I don't know. just it's just putting the perspective in over the shoulder makes me want to play it now. Anyway, we'll see how it works out. It's going to be a mostly online thing. So think Rocket League, similar type of deal. It's also not entirely clear if you play as the goalkeeper, or if you can play as the goalkeeper, or if the goalkeeper is AI, computer controlled. There is no goalkeeper in Rocket League, as far as I can remember. I think, yeah. I mean, it's only 2v2 in Rocket League anyway. So anyway, that is Rematch. That's what it's called. Slow Clap. That's what it is. Solasta 2, again, it's a fully CG trailer. I'm not really going to bother with it. Early access 2025. Solasta 1, Crown of the Magister, is a pretty good CRPG. It's using some of the rules. I think it's 5.1 SRD or something, which is close to Dungeons and Dragons. So if you like Baldur's Gate, you might actually like Solasta Crown of the Magister. Anyway, the sequel is set some distance into the future. We won't go into spoilery things. The Witcher 4. I mean, I said like I wouldn't show any of these other, but I don't know. This is a big enough trailer. Again, this is all CG. No gameplay. I'm gonna skip ahead significantly because series in it. All right. Anyway, Witcher 4. Still quite a ways away before we're going to be able to actually play it or even see any gameplay of it and so on. This whole trailer is very similar to previous trailers that CD Projekt have done for the other Witchers, and it just shows you a quest that will happen in the game. We've seen things previously where Geralt is rescuing people from vampires, and I think there was one where he comes across people hanging deserters or something like that, and he intervenes and that kind of thing. Anyway, similar deal here. Ciri intervenes here. This girl is meant to be sacrificed to some horrible thing in the cave. Ciri intervenes, and there's some pretty cool combat and CG and what have you. But again, it's a CG trailer. We're not getting any gameplay. Anyway, Ciri's a little bit older now. Seems to have fully embraced the Witcher path. It has also come from CD Projekt Red that Ciri will be the main character for Witcher 4. Geralt will be in it, but it's not clear how much he's in it. Is he entirely an NPC for this game, or are there parts where you play as him? In The Witcher 3, you did primarily play as Geralt, but there were some parts where you played as Ciri. and I am wondering if they're just gonna swap that around. I find it unlikely they'll have you just not play as Geralt at all. I just find that unlikely, but I think they will at some point. Anyway, long time we're gonna be waiting before Witcher 4 is in any position to be shown off or played or anything like that. Another kind of out of nowhere, really unexpected. I don't think anyone was really thinking that something new from Software was on the horizon this soon. But this is Elden Ring, Night Rain, and despite what it looks like, you might think, oh, it's more Elden Ring DLC, or maybe it's an Elden Ring sequel, and it's like, no, it's neither of those. It's neither of those, and it's also both of those. Um, Elden Ring Night Rain is a completely standalone game. It is primarily co-op multiplayer. The way From Software have described it is that it is like a survival action RPG. The way they've made the mechanics sound, it sounds like that looks like a battle royale zone bubble to me. That last thing that was shown in the trailer. Sorry, I've been on the intro panel this whole time. Apologies for that. Anyway, let's get back there. So this thing, this blue thing that's kind of hovering in, that looks like a battle royale zone buffer to me. Whether it'll actually play that way, I don't know, because as far as I could tell from the way it was described, there's no PvP. But I suspect there is. Anyway, I suspect it's PvPvE. There's a lot of things here that you're doing that you wouldn't have been doing in the original Elden Ring. There's some pretty cool verticality to a lot of what's going on here. Anyway, the gist of the game is it's got a bit of a roguelike thing to it. You are doing essentially 3 days, 3 nights in the Lands Between, or as they said in the blurb from FromSoft, it's not quite the Lands Between, it's a different land. It's a parallel world or something like that. So it might have a different history or something, different lore, what have you. An excuse for them to do different things, really. There is a beta in February at some stage. So if anyone is interested, they can check that out. But yeah, it's like a 3-day cycle thing. I think the map probably gets smaller as you're going through it, or at least that's the vibe I was getting from kind of blue wave thing that was coming through. I know, maybe not, but I think the deal is you have 3 days to acquire decent equipment, fight a couple of enemies to get your skill levels up, get some weapons. Like that's the Nameless King from Dark Souls 3. So they're giving themselves opportunities to put other things in here, I guess. Like it's just lifted entirely from it, right? Like it's just him. It's just the Nameless King. What is he doing here? Anyway, yeah, this will be really interesting when we find out what's going on. Anyway, at the end of the 3 days, the 3 nights, you fight the Night Lord at the end, big boss fight. So yeah, I think that the deal is you're given basically 3 Elden Ring days to get some gear together and then do your best against the Night Lord at the end. But yeah, 2025 co-op action survival game. There is a beta in February. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second remake, is coming to PC in January. It's pretty soon, end of January. Catly. So there's been some shenanigans about Catly after it was announced. I'm not gonna, but show the trailer since we're gonna be talking about it for a bit. The gist, or the shenanigans that came out is that it's probably AI. Is that a lot of this is probably AI. The developer seems to be a solo dev, and their only experience seems to be in like business degrees or what have you. Now, that doesn't preclude them from taking on game development as a hobby or what have you. That seems to be the story around it. So keep that in mind, I guess, that there are allegations that this is probably a generative AI thing. Project Robot. So this is Fumito Ueda's next game, who we haven't seen anything from since The Last Guardian, and since Japan Studio went under and Sony shut them down. So, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, The Last Guardian, that's all Fumeto Ueda. I don't think he's done anything since, so this would be quite a while since he's put out a new game. And we don't have a whole lot going from this. We know it's Project Robot. That doesn't come up in the trailer. This is like from other sort of things that we knew that he's been working on. Um, anyway, the trailer, it's not clear if this is in-game footage or not, or if it's just CG. We have this guy or girl climbing a big robot, not unlike Shadow of the Colossus. They get to the top of it. They're trying to take shelter from this shockwave that's making its way in. It's pretty cool looking. It's pretty mental. They take off and decapitate the robot, which is again pretty nuts. The shockwave hits them, but I don't think they're high enough to survive it because they do get hit by the wave eventually at the end of it. Anyway, again, several years before we'll see anything from that. I think it's only really starting development at this point. The Outer Worlds 2, again, wasn't really expecting that one. So the Outer Worlds, they do have, they do kind of shit on themselves a little bit here, in that they're always the sequel, or the sequel is always the better one. So Obsidian have done Neverwinter Nights 2, they did Knights of the Old Republic 2, they did Fallout New Vegas 3, 2, Fallout 3 Part 2, Fallout 3 New Vegas. New Vegas is definitely the better one. The Sith Lords, I think, is a better story. I don't think it plays better. And Neverwinter Nights versus Neverwinter Nights 2, they're just so different, the two of them, that it's hard to really say which one. Anyway, the Outer Worlds 2, the original Outer Worlds I liked, but I thought they could do better. So hopefully the sequel will see them do better. We don't know when this is coming out. 2025 at some stage. But one interesting thing is that it is slated for PC and Xbox, which is expected because Obsidian is now a first-party developer. But one interesting one is that it is also there for PlayStation 5. It's not clear if it's going to launch day and day with the Xbox and PC version, or if it's going to do Indiana Jones and launch like a couple of months afterwards instead. Split Fiction is the next thing from Hazelight. Hazelight is the Joseph Fares, as you see there. So It Takes Two, A Way Out, what is it? Brothers, Tale of Two Sons, that kind of thing. So the gist with Split Fiction, it's actually got a little bit of It Takes Two to it. It's, again, two people who are dropped into a alternate place where they're not usually. It Takes Two, they're turned into toys. In Split Fiction, these are two writers, and one of them primarily writes fantasy stuff, and one of them primarily writes science fiction stuff. There is some kind of technology at their job that is simulating their stories. Just go with it. And for whatever reason, the two of them end up getting dropped into this machine at the same time. And in order to get out of it, they need to work together, but they're working together in stories that only one of them has written, and it's one of them, it's not in their wheelhouse, and so on and so forth. So there's some interesting, opportunities there for fish out of water stuff. But yeah, it does seem like it's more of It Takes Two, which isn't a bad thing. That was a very good game. Anyway, again, it'll be a while before we see that. Actually, it won't be. March 2025. It's much sooner than I was expecting. Steel Hunters, again, I think was mostly CG. But this is going to be a free-to-play thing. It's from the World of Tanks people, so make of that what you will. It does have a bit of a Transformers vibe to it. I'm not sure how they're going to get any of this to run on a phone, but they'll figure it out, I guess. Anyway, so I think it's a 2v2 deal, so duos. The Long Dark 2 is a very short trailer, mostly just saying that it's a thing. So Black Frost will be the Long Dark 2, early access in 2026. Getting much further away now. Borderlands 4 had a very boring trailer, but anyway, it's going to be out in 2025. I think the setup here is that some of the denizens of the planet are having some kind of mind control robot stuff going on. And then there's some other robots that look suspiciously like Zero from Borderlands 2. And that's kind of it. We've got a little bit of the shots of the 4 playable characters. They don't really stand out. I don't know. There's just something about the trailer that seemed off. I can't really put my finger on why, but it just didn't seem right. It didn't have the kind of playfulness that you expect from Borderlands, I guess. It was kind of serious in some ways. Clive Rossfell from Final Fantasy 16 will be joining Tekken 8 pretty soon. In fact, he may not quite, December 16th. So tomorrow, if you're watching this on YouTube, he's likely already in Tekken. They did actually do some showed off some of like fighting. Hang on, YouTube has shit itself. That's what I get for pressing too many buttons at once. Oh, that's not good. It's fully locked up now as well. Okay. Alright. I'm gonna try that again. We good? Alright, we're good. Okay. Anyway. So Clive versus Jin Kazama. It's a pretty one-sided fight, to be perfectly honest. But they are showing off Clive, so it's probably expected. A little unfair he has a sword. That being said, if he is going to fight anybody in the Tekken universe, I guess it would have to be Jin, because he's the only other, like, sort of demigod. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I do want to play Tekken 8, but I can't put that much money into a game that I won't play for very long. I don't have the patience to get good at it. Anyway, Splitgate 2. Splitgate 2 is a first-person shooter that also has portal guns. And the first one did I think it was pretty well received critically, but I don't think it took off. I don't think many people played it. And I guess they're kind of hoping with the sequel, maybe more people will jump in. Virtua Fighter also has a blink and you'll miss it trailer. It's about 10 seconds long, maybe. Anyway, there's a new Virtua Fighter on the way. Looks decent, but again, not a whole lot to show for itself. Project Century is kind of the next thing that Ryu Gagatoku Studios are working on. Those are the guys behind Yakuza Like a Dragon. So it's set in 1915, 1915 Japan. So we've got this kind of weird merging of U.S. kind of Western culture making its way into Japan, and there's obviously a little bit of gangland stuff going on because it's Ryu Gagatoku. It's not clear yet if this is another Yakuza game or if it's its own thing. So Ryu Gagatoku have worked on other things other than Yakuza. They had the Judgment games, Judgment and Lost Judgment, which were spin-offs, even though they played very much like the old Yakuza games. Anyway, we don't know too much about this one yet, but it's either another Yakuza game or possibly its own thing. As you may know that the Like a Dragon series or the Yakuza series has gone turn-based. At least the last 2 games have been turn-based, whereas the Yakuza series, up until that point, was like a real-time combat thing. And it was thought at the time that Judgment and Lost Judgment were going to be keeping the real-time bit of the series, and they would go off in that branch, and then the turn-based stuff would go off in the Like a Dragon series. There were shenanigans with the main character, or the main actor, rather, for Judgment. So I think that series has been stopped, basically. So it might be the case that Project Century is going to take over instead. There's a Turok game. For some reason. So this is from Saber Interactive. These guys would be responsible for the latest Warhammer Space Marine 2. That was them. So Turok Origins looks like it's basically going to take the Space Marine formula and just do Turok, put dinosaurs in it. You may not be familiar with the Turok because it's been quite some significant amount of time since the last game. N64 first-person shooter, ran like absolute shit, but it had good things going for it. It had some really interesting weapons. It had an interesting setup. It's based off a, um, I think it's Dark Horse comic. Turok. I think it's the same guys who do the Darkness. I think it's the same comic book house for them. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's going for the Space Marine treatment. I don't think it's going to be going for the same number of enemies exactly, but that's the idea. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it works out for them. I don't think we have a year set up for that yet. Warhammer 99 got a trailer to just basically say, "Hey, it's out," and it is. Came out over the weekend. Pal World is getting some DLC. Faybreak. It'll be out just before Christmas, December 23rd. One other thing that came up didn't come up in the trailer. This was kind of news elsewhere about Pal World, but because of the ongoing potential lawsuit, legal action from Nintendo on patent infringement and what have you, they are going to be removing the Pokeball mechanic, essentially. So there'll be some other way to summon and capture your pals in Pal World, but it won't be the ball thing, because that's at the center of the lawsuit. Okay, so this was I had two moments in the show where I lost my shit, and this was moment one. So Onimusha, back from Capcom, there was a good bit where I was looking at this thinking, there's no way this is Onimusha. Can't be. They wouldn't be this good to me. Considering Onimusha Warlords, the Onimusha remaster didn't sell that great. But yeah, I was thinking here, okay, maybe it's like Neo, with the souls and the Japanese background. Plus it's red. I was figuring that's probably Neo. But now they're all clearly being gathered towards something. It's like they couldn't do this. There's no way. It can't be Onimusha. It just can't. It's pretty obvious at this point that yes, it's Onimusha. Anyway, if you guys are not familiar with this, which you may not be, it's PS2 series games. There were 4 Onimusha games. People like to forget that there was a 4th one, but there was a 4th one, and it was okay. It's kind of Resident Evil, but ancient Japan, and there was a much bigger, stronger emphasis on melee combat. It was nowhere near this kind of close up. So what's really interesting here is the original Onimusha was tank controls and fixed camera angles and stuff like that. So you never had the game being like this close up. It almost has Neo Souls vibes to it, like almost. It's not clear if that's what they're going to be going for. I feel because it's Capcom, they'll want to give it a more of a speedier, like arcade combat stuff to it, because that's just how Capcom does their things. So it probably won't be like a plodding Dark Souls type game. It's going to be a much more faster paced thing. But it looks really nice with the Resident Evil engine and what have you. And then 2026 is obviously the bad news. Anyway, that was moment 1 where I lost my shit. We'll get to the moment 2 where I lost my shit later on. The first Berserker Kazan, this is an entirely CG trailer. It's a pretty good trailer, but it was entirely CG. March 27, 2025. Didn't show anything of any actual gameplay. It plays like a Souls or Bloodborne kind of thing. Dying Light the Beast was going to be Dying Light 2 DLC, and then they figured we've put a lot into this, and there's a lot of new mechanics and stuff. Let's just make it its own game. So it's a standalone thing now. Summer 2025. Stage Fright is the next thing from the Overcooked devs. So a lot of this trailer is set up. It's kind of got these two bickering friends. And then some shenanigans happen and they get split up into alternate realities, or they get pulled into the film they were watching or something like that. But either way, you're going to have this kind of thing where you're both on opposite. So again, like It Takes Two, almost like the Hazelight games, it's kind of starting to eat their lunch a little bit. But things you do in one area help you in the other area and stuff like that. So you'll have to work together to help each other out. So it's probably not going to be the relationship destroying game like Overcooked is. It's probably going to be a little bit more of a scripted thing, like It Takes Two, or Split Fiction, their newer game. There's a Game of Thrones game based off the TV show for some reason. They're like 8 years late to that, but whatever. Anyway, 2025. If anybody's actually interested in it, it seems to be following some of the later seasons of the show. You are playing some rando, which is rando everyman. You're not playing anybody from the actual show. Not sure what they're doing with this, but anyway, moving on. Last of Us Part 2 coming to PC, 3rd of April. Sonic, Sonic Mario Kart, Sonic Kart, I guess, again, is getting a sequel. Will it finally answer the question of why gotta go fast hedgehogs need 4 wheels to go less fast? Yes, it will, and the answer is to make it even and fun for everybody. There's no competition if it's just Sonic and he runs like he's the fastest one. That's his whole deal. I don't know anything about the other Sonic characters. Maybe there's somebody who's faster than Sonic. I don't know. As far as I'm aware, his whole deal is that he's fast, though. It's the same kind of conceit you have to give to why does Bowser keep getting invited to Mario Party and Mario Kart and what have you. It's because it's fun. Just go with it. You know, why is Sonic at the Olympics and why doesn't he win every single track event? Just go with it. Anyway, Mafia: The Old Country. A teaser for this recently enough that there was going to be a full trailer at the Game Awards, and this is what it is. But it's kind of just it's a lot of setup. There's not a lot of gameplay, so it's as what most people assumed set pretty far in the past, 1900s maybe. No release date or gameplay or anything like that. Dispatch is an interesting one. It's kind of the gist of it is you're playing a former superhero. So think of it like he used to like have a mech. It's like Iron Man, right? Except you didn't build the Iron Man suit. Somebody else built the Iron Man suit, and it gets destroyed, and you can't build a new one, so you're not a superhero anymore. But he wants to get back into the action. So they say, hey, join this crew and we will build you a new suit if things work out. So the gist of the gameplay is it's more like a team management thing. You're given calls like 911 operator almost kind of thing, and you are dispatching who you think the best superheroes would be for that situation. That's kind of the gist of the game. Anyway, we don't know. It might be a fun one. Do we have a release date on that? I don't think we do. Okay, so this was the second time I lost my shit. This was a sequel. Now this is the most bare bones trailer. It shows even less than the Onimusha trailer. I think this one has only like just started development, barely just started development. Onimusha has maybe got a couple of months in. This is like just started as far as I'm aware. Anyway, Okami sequel. It's not even clear if it's going to be called Okami 2 or anything like that. But yeah, it was like, there's no way. That whole time looking at it going, there's no way this is Okami. And yeah, it's undeniable. Well, it's undeniable now that it's Okami. But at the time, it's like, there's no way. Yeah, squeals. I don't normally squeal. The only other time I've ever squealed was Final Fantasy VII Remake gameplay trailer. I don't do it very often. I'm not a very emotional person, typically. But yeah, some things do get me going. Anyway, Okami sequel, who fucking knows, 2028 maybe, by the time the thing actually comes out. But some pretty cool news from it was that Hideki Kamiya, now that he's left Platinum, so he left Platinum earlier this year, wasn't entirely sure what he was going to be doing. And now we know he's gone back to Capcom. It's again not clear if he's become a Capcom employee or if he's set up his own studio and he's working with Capcom. You know, it might be semantics, but who knows. Anyway, but the new studio is called Clovers, which is obviously a riff on Clover Studio. Clover Studio being a Capcom spin-off that was responsible for things like Okami, Beautiful Joe, Piano 3, Like some of those games are really well received, critically, and cult classics. I guess Okami is an amazing game. But it was locked to the Wii, and the Wii was at the time kind of like a casual gamer thing. That was the way it was marketed. So I don't think it sold particularly great. Beautiful Joe, similarly, don't think sold great either. And even then, when they were ported, they didn't make the kind of money Capcom wanted it to make. So Clover Studios got killed. And the people who were working for Clover Studios went to Platinum. And that's where Platinum Games came from. Platinum Games has a lot of former Clover Studio people. And now that Platinum has kind of treading water for the last 2 years or so, it would seem that Kamiya leaving is, it's clear that he wasn't happy at Platinum Games. And he said as much that he wasn't happy there. I think it's likely that a lot of people and a lot of devs from Platinum will probably follow him over to Clover's. This is all speculation. We don't know if any of that is actually true. Anyway, the last thing shown off was Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. So this is what Naughty Dog have been working on since The Last of Us Part 2. It's quite a bit different to Uncharted and The Last of Us. So this one is being helmed by Neil Druckmann. That sometimes means things to people. I'm going to skip a little bit ahead to what may or may not be gameplay. It is difficult to tell how much of this is gameplay. Or in-engine things, but the game is clearly going for an old anime, 80s anime inspiration. Like, she's got the red leather jacket, Akira, there's a lot of Cowboy Bebop stuff going on here. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead to what might be gameplay. As you can see, there's not a lot of it. So to get onto the planet, actually no, this isn't gameplay. Maybe it might jump into gameplay like after you hit them, and then it becomes gameplay. But anyway, we don't know. What kind of game is it even going to be? We don't really know. But anyway, that's what they've been working on. No release date either for that. So that was the Game Awards. You might know we didn't say anything about the actual awards because that's not what the show is about. Astrobot won Game of the Year. Sure, it's fine. Any of the nominees, I think I would have been fine with any of them winning. I think they all kind of deserved it. Sven Vicky's speech before, so he was the one presenting Game of the Year. Baldur's Gate 3 won it last year. So he was presenting Game of the Year, and he did kind of go off on how developers are being treated the last couple of years in the game industry with all the layoffs and shit like that. And his speech is really good. So I'd encourage you, if you're just going to be watching the trailers and what have you, and you're going to skip the whole show, to maybe seek out his speech, because it is a really good one. Anyway, the Game Awards show, though, isn't the only Game Awards thing that goes on. There are a bunch of other showcases that go on during the week around the Game Awards. One of them is Day of the Devs. Day of the Devs is this kind of non-profit team that kind of promote a lot of indie games and that kind of thing. So there's about 20 games in their showcase. We're not going to go through them because it's going to take forever, because we have a bunch of other things to go through as well. Far Away, though, is this kind of one-button constellation painting puzzle game. So it's kind of like how do you draw a path through a series of dots, paint a constellation, essentially, without going back on yourself and stuff like that. So it's got a bit of a puzzle element to it, but then there are situations where you do want to go back on yourself. Only sort of paying attention, to be honest. It seemed like an interesting idea. Ultimate Sheep Raccoon is the sequel to Ultimate Chicken Horse. Instead of Ultimate Chicken Horse is a really good party game. The deal with Ultimate Chicken Horse is it's kind of a platforming game, and it's like a party of 4. I think it's 4 is the max you can play with, and it's get from A to B, you get points. But if everybody gets from point A to point B, you get no points. So the deal with it is every round in between, you pick obstacles to put in people's ways. And the deal is you want to make the obstacles annoying so that the other people don't get through, but you do get through. Right? So you don't want to make it so bad that you can't beat it either. And obviously the other people in the party are doing the same thing. So you're all putting like weird obstacles in different really annoying locations, and then everybody trying to get through. And if only one person gets through, they get a lot of points. But if more than one person gets through, it's points are less and that kind of thing. And you keep going until however many points people get. Ultimate Sheep Raccoon is the same kind of deal, but instead of a platformer, it's now like a trials bike thing instead. So might be a bit silly. Sleight of hand. It's a little bit annoying they don't have a trailer for that one. Sleight of hand this was shown off last year, I think, at the Game Awards, but it's a kind of stealth action like noir thing, but you're playing a witch. So you're playing a witch in like a detective noir thing. And you get a lot of your abilities are dealt to you in a deck of cards. And you use those cards to like perform like creating gas clouds or being able to teleport to locations or causing distractions and stuff like that. It looked pretty interesting, actually. Even the first time out I saw it, I thought it looked interesting. Demon Tides, I don't remember. It's an open world 3D platformer, Wind Waker, but hip hop. So Wind Waker, but like Jet Set Radio. That sounds amazing. Why don't I remember? There must be some reason I didn't remember. Kingmakers, you've probably seen this one shown off. You might have seen it on like social media and GIFs and stuff like that. This is the game where a bunch of guys time travel and they bring modern technology back to the medieval ages. So they're like being dropped into a melee outside a big castle with like knights and like beating the shit out of each other, and then they come storming in with like a car and like a M16 and stuff like that. It's very dumb. But that's what Kingmaker is. Recur is like a puzzle platformer type thing. So think Inside or Limbo or that kind of thing. But the gist of Recur is you have a timey-windy thing, so you can pause it, you can roll back time, you can speed up time, that kind of thing. Blueprints is it's kind of like a done. That's how to explain it necessarily. So the way Blueprints works is you inherit this house that has 45 rooms in it, which you are told by the person you're inheriting it from that there's actually a secret 46th room, and you are gist of the game then is for you to try to find room 46. However, the house changes every day, and the way it changes every day is because you are creating the house over and over from this deck of cards that you're getting, and you're trying to put down cards that make sense architecturally. They connect to each other, they have the doors in the correct places and stuff like that. Every room has different benefits to it. Some rooms give you more cards, some rooms give you keys to unlock doors in other rooms and stuff like that. Basically, the gist of it is, do you have enough resources, and can you put down enough cards to get all the way to 46? There's a demo for it if you're interested in checking it out. Enchiladas Don't Stop Girly Pop is the first person Y2K style girly pop thing. So it is very colorful, very vibrant. And the don't stop part of it is as long as you are moving, you will do more damage. So if you stop, you do no damage essentially with your gun. Yeah, it's a very fast paced kind of thing. LOK Digital or Lock Digital, we'll talk about later because it was released on the same day. Neon Abyss 2, it's kind of a roguelike 2D pixel thingy, a little bit like Enter the Gungeon. Kind of vibe I got from it. Crescent County. I think we talked about this one previously on the PC Gamer showcase, but it's like a lifestyle sim, teenage witch thing where your broom is also like a motorbike kind of thing. PBJ the musical. I don't know what's going on in that game. I'll leave you guys to figure out what's going on in that because I just over my head. Curiosmus. Yeah, not sure what this is exactly. It's kind of like a sandbox, like city builder kind of thing, but on a bigger scale, like a galaxy instead. So you're creating planets and star systems and shit like that. But I think it's given more of a like playful vibe to it instead. Bionic Bay has again another puzzle platformer type thing, so inside Limbo and so on. This one also has kind of timey, spacey time things. It also has a kind of a teleport mechanic, and it has a really interesting mechanic where you can swap places with items. That won't really make sense as a mechanic until you see it in action. It's hard to describe. It seems like it's going to be a real mind melting one to figure out how to do stuff in there. Incombini is one I've been kind of interested to see more of. So this was shown off, I think, a little bit earlier this year. And we had seen some stuff from the developer earlier than that. But it's so a Combini is a convenience store in Japan. The convenience stores in Japan are a little bit more like it's almost like a supermarket, kind of almost. So there's a little bit more to it, but you're essentially managing that. So it is like a lifestyle sim of you playing somebody who's essentially taking the night shift at the Combini, talking to the people who come in. You get to know their story, you get to know the items they like, and you can restock the shelves and make sure they get the stuff they want, or maybe some stuff you think they might like, and so on and so on, kind of thing. While also helping out your aunt who runs the shop, and the shop's not doing too well. Anyway, Feltopia is Yoshi's Woolly World at home. I guess it's a entirely like what do they call it? Like stop motion thing where all of the models are made like they're real actual felt models made by the developers, and they're all used to make the animations and that kind of thing. So there's nothing like programmatic about their animations and the models and what have you. Blippo is the next thing from the Untitled Goose Game people. It's not clear if it's a game, to be perfectly honest, because it did seem like people were just so. Skip ahead, because it looks like they're just skipping through, super shit TV, basically. So how much of this is what even would be the gameplay? I don't know, but that's Blippo or Blippo Plus, whatever. Hyperlight Breaker has been delayed entering early access multiple times. But now, for really reals this time, January 14th, 2025, it'll enter early access. We'll see. Then Tankhead, and I think Tankhead's the last one. Yeah, Tankhead is another game that came out this week, so we will talk about that in the new releases section. But wait, there's more, the Game Awards, because there was also the Wholesome Games Showcase, or the Wholesome Snack Showcase, whatever you want to call it. Again, quite a few games. I'm not going to go into all of them. Kind of the standout ones for me: Duck Detective, we played on the channel recently. Duck Detective and the Secret Salami. This one, Duck Detective: The Ghost of Glamping, is the sequel, essentially. A Waddleful Life just looks kind of cute and fun. You're just raising these three ducklings. It's kind of like a fun, cozy sandbox kind of thing. All of the Wholesome Game things are like cozy things. Little Rocket Lab is a kind of Stardew Valley Factorio smashed them together. It's kind of that. Piece by piece, you are running like a antique repair shop. So people bring you like their broken shit, and you fix it and then sell it. So there's a puzzle element of putting the stuff back together, and then there's like the management sim of running your shop, and then there's the lifestyle thing of talking to the people and learning their stories and what have you. Um, Toem 2. So Toem is this really nice like monochrome photography thing. Um, it's got a little bit of like Captain Toad to it as well, I think. But anyway, a sequel to that, sure. That was a fun game. I liked it. There's obviously a lot more. I'm trying to get through these as much as I can because wait, there's more. There's more of the Game Awards. There's also the Latin American showcase. Again, lots of games coming out of this. Some of these are already out. You know, they're just kind of reminding you that they're out and people may have missed them. Arco is a really interesting. It's kind of like an isometric shooter, but I found it really hard. I'm not sure if anyone else kind of feels the same, but I found it was just very difficult to get into. A Ranger is a really interesting puzzle game where it's like I know when I say tile sliding puzzles, you know, you might go, good God, no. They are the most frustrating puzzles possible. And they are. You're correct. But a Ranger, while it is that, they're not as bad. It's much simpler. It's a much simpler concept. Just go with it. It's good. Bloodless is a really cool pixel art side-scrolling combat thing. And as the name suggests, your character, Tomoe, has given up the way of the sword. So she doesn't want to kill people anymore. So she just parries them and knocks them out instead. And that's kind of the game mechanic. It's this kind of dodge parrying system. It's really good. I actually really liked it. Cozy Dungeons is a pretty cool thing. You're just setting up dungeons or resetting them after adventures have gone through them. And it's kind of played for laughs. Skipping ahead here a little bit. Enigma of Fear, I think I've talked about before. It's by pixel art Resident Evil, and there's a dog in it. I should have just led with there's a dog in it. Really. Knockoff seemed kind of interesting. It's a fighter game, so Tekken, Street Fighter, that kind of thing. But you're playing with toys. But they're toys from like the 80s, so it's like He-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and what have you, except not them because they didn't get the license for them, so they're knockoffs. That's the name of the game. Anyway, it's a cool idea. Culebra has a bit of kind of a ukulele vibe to it. I don't know why, because it doesn't look anything like it, but that was the vibe I was getting from it. Motor Slice, pretty cool looking parkour game. It's like a third-person Mirror's Edge. And then there's like combat against these like giant robots and stuff like that. Mullet Magic, I think we played on the channel. Very, very good roguelike type game. The Shadows of Chroma Tower is like first person Skyrim. Skyrim is first person. It's a first person dungeon crawler type thing. It looked pretty interesting. Sin Squad, like a tactical stealth type thing. It's real-time stealth, which I don't know. Like I go back and forth on whether I like real-time stealth or not. Anyway, that's Sin Squad. Again, also look pretty interesting. Storyteller is getting more content, so that's good. Storyteller's a really good puzzle game. The War for Chiapas. It's kind of like, to be honest, it's Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Because that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it. That's the vibe I was getting from it. Anyway. But wait, there's more. Because we're still not done. We also have the Game Awards for games who can't afford the Game Awards. So this is something... This was like a Twitter thread that was started last year. And it was basically a bunch of indie devs getting together to show off their games. Because it came to light that getting a trailer shown at the Game Awards costs like $1 million or something. Anyway, so they had a bunch of their games that they were showing off here. Again, I won't go through all of them because we'll be here forever. But there are some really good ones in there. I encourage you to take a look at that. The URL is exactly that. The Game Awards for games you can't afford the Game Awards. Takagwakaga.com. Anyway, you should check it out just for the website. The website's fucking hilarious. Anyway, updates outside of the Game Awards things. Star Overdrive is coming to Switch in March or some stage next year. We had a look at this at the last Nintendo Indie Showcase thing. So this is like an open world hoverboard type thing, and it does have some combat elements to it as well. But you're there mostly for the hoverboard shenanigans kind of thing. Anyway, I think it's March. Nope, I'm wrong. April 10th, 2025. Star Overdrive. It's coming to Switch. There is a Steam page for it, so it's probably coming to PC as well. But it's not clear if it's coming to PC at the same time or later. And if there's a PC version, it's likely a PlayStation and Xbox version might be on the way after that as well. Anyway, after that, then AI Limit put out like a 9-minute gameplay trailer. So as part of putting out the trailer, it was also delayed. This is supposed to come out this year, and it's going to come out in, I think this one is March. One of them is March, and it must be this one. Anyway, this video, as I said, it's almost 10 minutes long. I'll just skip to the bit where I tell you what it is. It's Bloodborne. Or Souls, if you prefer. Soulsborne type thing. I almost thought it was a Code Vein sequel, but it's not. It's its own thing. It's not even by the same developer. So, yeah. It's that kind of thing if you want more of the older Soulsy type stuff. With some anime-inspired shenanigans on top of it. There's a pretty cool boss design, actually. This thing. Necro, the Panic Reaper. I don't know. He's got a pretty cool design. But yeah, as you can see, it's a Soulsy type thing. Anyway. Is this one March? Come on, one of them is definitely March. There we go, March 27th, 2025 for that one. And then the free Epic game this week, Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. It's a survival crafty type thing. One other thing about the Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. Now, one other thing about the Epic Games free game stuff is starting on the 19th, which is next Thursday. They're going to be doing a free game every day. So I won't be able to tell you about the free game every day. So this is your heads up that starting Thursday, you'll be able to get a free game from Epic every single day. Whether they'll all be good, I don't know. Some of them will be alright. Anyway, moving on. So, middle of the month, PlayStation Plus catalog refresh. Some decent ones here this time around. I mean, they're always kind of decent. I only say this time around because they're actually games I don't already have. Anyway, Sonic Frontiers was the open world attempt for Sonic the Hedgehog that sort of worked, kinda. I think it's all okay. It did take the idea of just dotting puzzles around a big map. That's kind of Sonic Frontiers. And then it took the much smarter idea of having bespoke, scripted, properly designed things, not just plonking things down on the map. No, we're going to do a proper level. So it's got both. I think it did okay. Forspoken, I've talked about Forspoken before. It has really good combat. And it has really good traversal. And then everything else about the game is shit. So you can put up with really bad dialogue, not a great story, a very plodding first 5 hours of the game, and then environments that look nice but get very samey very quickly. There's a lot of detraction for Forspoken, and doesn't really get good until pretty much the end of the game. When you have access to all of your abilities and you can chain between your different spells and different traversal things. It's unfortunate. They should have front-loaded it. They didn't. Anyway. Rabbids Party of Legends, I assume it's like a multiplayer party thing for Rabbids. Who cares? World Rally Championship Generations. Racing game. Okay. Fist, Forge and Shadow Torch is a side-scrolling... I'm not sure if it's a Metroidvania or if it's just a side-scrolling kind of combat thing. But you're playing this rabbit who has a giant fist, and he punches people really hard. It actually looks okay. It actually looks decent. Jurassic World Evolution 2 is a management game for Jurassic Park. Coffee Talk 1 and 2. Coffee Talk is a pretty good visual novel type thing. You're manning a cafe. A bunch of people come in, you get to know their stories. Coffee Talk is set in a sort of hybrid fantasy world. So it's kind of modern day, but like elves and dwarves and werewolves and shit all exist as well, and they just have office jobs and what have you. And then Coffee Talk 2 is more of that. Space for the Unbound. I've had this on my to-do list for a while. It's a slice of life adventure game, pixel art, late 90s Indonesia. And I think your friend has some kind of time manipulation powers or something. So yeah, it's slice of life, but also there's supernatural shenanigans going on. Fogs is great. Fogs is a puzzle platformer type thing where you are playing as a snake that has two dog heads, or a dog that doesn't have a back end. It doesn't have legs either, so it's still a snake. Anyway, you independently control both heads, and they bark, and they're hilarious, and it's really funny. You can play a two-player and just have one person control each head as well, for extremely frustrating times, I guess. But yeah, I really like Fogs. I thought it was very fun. It's janky. It's super janky, but I thought it was a fun game. Piped, I've never heard of. It's a co-op action adventure game. Real-time collaboration between players. Okay, well, I've probably never heard of it because it's co-op. Okay, but it does seem like you might need a buddy for Biped. Over on the premium end of things, so this is typically where Sony's classic games go, and where they've started to putting VR titles as well. So Sly Cooper 1 is already available, and then Sly Cooper 2 and 3 have now been added. And Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. I think Jak 2 and 3 are also already out, so like these three games now sort of complete the Sly Raccoon and the Jak and Daxter trilogies for the PlayStation Plus. I think. Definitely for Sly Cooper, I'm not too sure on Jak and Daxter. I want to check that. Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy is the first one. So this is what Naughty Dog were working on. So it was Crash Bandicoot, then Jak and Daxter. And when they finished Jak and Daxter, they went on to Uncharted for the PS3. Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot was PS1. So Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3. And then Jak and Daxter 1, 2, and 3 was the PS2. And then Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. PS3/4. And Neil Druckmann. Right. Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge is a VR title. I don't usually get the motion sickness thing in PlayStation VR. I did get it with that game. So we'll see. It was the jetpack parts. You move too fast. Didn't feel good. Anyway, moving on. I suspect it might be better if I was standing up, but I was sitting down. Anyway. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver... Sorry. Those are some of the games you can play soon. I gotta say my thing. Those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you want to play something right now? You can play Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered, which you should, because they're very, very good games. So Soul Reaver 1 was a PlayStation 1 game, and Soul Reaver 2 was a PS2 game. They follow Raziel, who's formerly a lieutenant of Kain, the Vampire King, the Vampire God, the Vampire whatever you want to call. He's the big daddy of vampires. And you are resurrected by the Elder God, and the Elder God gives you the opportunity to get revenge on Kain while at the same time killing off your former brothers in arms. But while that's happening, there's also timey-wimey shenanigans going on, and maybe people aren't telling you everything you should know, and maybe there was a reason Kain betrayed you. It was actually part of a prophecy, etc., etc. The Soul Reaver is this really important weapon. And now we're going back in time, or going forward in time, and breaking the timeline and causing, what do we call it? Contradictions. And that fucks up everything. The story is extremely dense. And that's only one half of it. The other half of it is Blood Omen. It's where you play Kain. You see things from, well, you don't quite see things from his side because Blood Omen 1 and 2 are set like 1,000 years before all of this. And then they come together in Legacy of Kain Defiance, which had a big cliffhanger at the end of it, and then we didn't hear anything about it afterwards. Anyway, hopefully, maybe they'll continue the story, but I doubt it. But they might. Anyway, that's Legacy of Kain. Power Rangers Rita's Rewind is a kind of throwback, old arcade style beat 'em up kind of thing. So think like the old TMNT games or Streets of Rage, Double Dragon, that kind of thing. The idea with Rita's Rewind is again more time shenanigans. Rita Repulsa from the future goes back in time to Rita Repulsa from the very beginning of the series and like tells her like what's gonna happen, so she's able to stop the Power Rangers from foiling her plans and that kind of thing. So now you gotta fix that shit. So yeah, there's some timey we were rewinding shenanigans going on there. Among Ashes is a kind of meta horror type game. So you're playing a game in the game called Night Call, which is a sort of first person Resident Evil thing. But at the same time, there's horror stuff going on outside, you know, in the game, within the game, in the house, within your house, kind of thing. So there's like, you're playing like two games at the same time, almost. Anyway, that's Among Ashes. We won't go too much further into that. 10 Dead Doves. 10 Dead Doves, again, is also a kind of horror type thing, but it's also got a bit of, I don't know, it's kind of got like a Twin Peaks thing to it. Stuff is just really surreal and kind of, can you really be certain that everything is you're seeing is real or not, and that kind of thing? Are you going mad? Yeah, we don't want to go too much further into it, but there's a lot of weird shit going on in 10 Dead Doves. Anyway, that's out now as well. Alright, Tankhead. So Tankhead was shown off in Day of the Devs. So the idea with Tankhead is it is kind of Pacific Drive. So you're going out into this not particularly hospitable landscape and trying to survive inside of it by scavenging for parts. The only difference is instead of you being like a typical family sedan, you are a tank. I think at the beginning of the game, you are a human essence or human consciousness that has been put into a robot, and then that same human conscious is taken out of that robot and put into a tank. I don't know why they had to do that extra step, but that's what's going on. Anyway, you're a tank. It's full tank controls as well. So, forward and back. You press forward, you go forward. That's it. Doesn't matter what way the camera's pointing. Your guy will go forward. At the same time, you have this little drone guy that you can pop out of in and out when you're not in combat. At least, I don't think you can do it while you're in combat. And basically, you go around the environment looking for parts, or if you find tanks that are still active, you might have to take them out first, and then be selective about which part of the tanks you blow up because you want their parts. So, like, I really want their missile silo, so I better not target their missile silo. But that's obviously going to make the fight harder because you need to dodge their missiles and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. It seems interesting. It is currently Epic Store exclusive, so that might put some people off. But I don't know. I find it interesting. And then LOK Digital. So this isn't Legacy of Kain, even though it is LOK. This is a different game. So Lock Digital. Lock is a puzzle game. It's a puzzle system where you are given this sort of kind of crossword setup. And you basically need to fill out the whole block. You need to like make the whole block go from white to black. And you do that by using a selection of words from a different language. The language is Lock. At the beginning, that's the only word you know, but as you go forward in the game, you start to learn new words from this language, and you can use that to fill up more of the map and that kind of thing. It's an interesting concept. So I'm gonna give it a shot. There is a demo for it, so I'm gonna give the demo a shot and see if I like it. Unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games. video game industry. So, while CEOs got dressed up for the Game Awards, 461 workers at ZeniMax Online Studios unionized. So, while Todd Howard was away collecting an award for Elder Scrolls Online, I think, and then presenting an award for, I think it was Best Performance, which was Melina Jurgens from Hellblade. It was well deserved. Anyway, it also kind of transpired that Troy Baker and Todd Howard were presenting the award, and either Todd Howard is super short or Troy Baker is crazy tall, or somewhere in between that. But I suspect Troy Baker is tall, but I don't think he's that tall. Like, Todd Howard must be pretty short. Anyway, I thought it was funny because they did like a side by side. Harrison Ford came in as well, because obviously he's going to promote Indiana Jones at the same time. And there's a picture somewhere of them being side, like the three of them in a row, and it like goes in order of height. It's really funny looking. Anyway, moving on past that, unionization. Members include engineers, artists, web devs, and game designers. So that is important because that's cross discipline union, which is much harder to break up. From what we had seen before that, it had just been the QA guys unionizing, which is, it's an easier union to set up, but it's also an easier union to break. Whereas having a cross-discipline union is a lot harder to deal with. For the corporate side of things, it's great for the workers. Anyway, we are looking forward to collectively pushing for improvements to the workplace, including job security, protections against AI, better pay and benefits in an industry that we're so deeply passionate about. So, obviously, talking about job security is the sheer number of layoffs that have happened in the last 2 years, 3 years, and a significant amount of them have come from Microsoft-owned studios, which of course ZeniMax is now part of. So this unionization effort was specifically the people working on Elder Scrolls Online. Microsoft has officially recognized the union. Unfortunately, the news with that is that they are somewhat legally required to do so, as it was part of acquiring Activision. That they would not stand in the way of people trying to unionize. So, as part of the agreement to get that merger to go through, they're required to recognize the unions. It's not exactly a voluntary recognition. However, it's there. The CWA, the Communication Workers of America, which you've heard of a few times, a lot of the video game unions in the US are unionizing under a bigger umbrella, which is the Communications Workers. They said the imbalance of power is very obvious, so you try to organize in secret so that people can't be totally derailed from exercising their rights before they even have a chance to understand those rights, because union busting is a real thing. So it can be difficult to get a union off the ground when, your job is heavily intent on that not happening. Anyway, unfortunately though, we have some news of people getting more job security, but now we have news of people losing their job security. Life is Strange developer Deck9 confirms another round of layoffs. This is their third round this year. That's not great. Anyway, an undisclosed number of employees have been let go from Deck9. CEO confirmed today, we are sad to share the news that we must say goodbye to some of our talented team members. We must say goodbye to them. We have to. We have no choice. We must do it. You are choosing to do this, asshole. Anyway, this comes shortly after the release of Double Exposure, which is like the most recent Life is Strange game. So yeah, we got the game out and we're making money off it, so fuck you. Anyway, this is the second round of layoffs. It's not. It's actually the third round of layoffs. Second round of layoffs Deck9 is made in 2024. Oh, actually, it might be the second round in 2024, because they did do another one in 2023. Okay, so in that case, yes, it is the second round in 2024. Company made 20% of its workforce redundant in February of this year, and then laid off 30 people 2023. Yeah, okay, so fair enough. Laid off 30 people in May of last year, with no explanations for why they did that, and so on and so forth. So yeah, they're basically just, again, this is speculation, but they're taking the opportunity that everyone, or the excuse that everyone is using, which is, market's something bad, whatever, firing you. So can have more money. Wait, don't say that part. Don't say that part out loud. All right, moving on. It's not the only one doing layoffs. People Can Fly is suspending or laying off. Suspending is exactly 120 employees. We are suspending or parting ways with more than 120 talented aviators. Fuck off. You're about to absolutely wreck these people's lives. Don't use your cutesy name for your employees. Anyway, company is reducing its self-publishing plans, suspending Project Victoria, whatever that is, and scaling down its team on Project Bifrost, whatever that is. Became necessary because of external market pressures. It's the same excuse we've heard everybody using. We are deeply grateful for the contributions of every team member. Doesn't sound like it. Impacted by this turn of events, their talent and dedication have helped shape our company and our games. These changes are deeply felt by all of us, and I think these changes are deeply felt by some more than others here. Anyway, in April, People Can Fly announced that it had cancelled a co-op action RPG named Project Dagger after several years of development. So their Bulletstorm VR thing also didn't do particularly well for them, and I don't think Outriders did great commercially. So People Can Fly have not been flying for a while now, so it's not exactly surprising that they would have to let people go. What is surprising, or I mean, it really shouldn't be surprising at this point, but clearly the projects they're choosing aren't resonating with players. So you would think the people who make those decisions, they should be the ones going, because you chose to push for these games that people didn't want. It's your fault. You should be the one being laid off, not these people. Anyway, they're not the only. It's not the only layoffs. 99 jobs cut at Warner Brothers Bounty Roll. Good shit. Anyway, so this is right after. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But anyway, staff were invited to a video conference after which 99 people at Warner Bros. Montreal were informed they've been laid off with 8 weeks of notice. Oh, thanks. Cheers. Invited to a video conference. Imagine that. Like, how big is that video conference if 99 people were laid off? And like one guy from HR? Probably not. Right? There's gonna have to be a couple of other people. That's still like 100 people on a conference call. Nightmare. Anyway, and then most of them get laid off. It's thought the layoffs primarily impact subcontractors working keywords. QA, again, QA are always the first to get the shaft. They're easily the worst treated people in video game development. Anyway, it was stressed at the company's recent biannual meeting in the summer that there was no mention of redundancies, and management had insisted the studio had enough work. Clearly, they were lying then, or they're lying now. Because that was not very long ago. They would have had to make this decision for 99 people well in advance. They didn't just make that decision. And if they did, well, that's even worse management. Anyway, as we were talking about with Warner Brothers, possible reason that maybe almost 100 people are being let go is because Suicide Squad's current season will be its last. Offline mode coming this week. So offline mode will allegedly be happening Tuesday, December 10th, so there should be an offline mode already. I don't think that happened. That might be the case. And there's a new character and so on, but the bigger news is that that's it. It's over. The flop has finally stopped flopping. Season 4 will finish with episode 8, which is scheduled to release some stage in January. This will serve as the last seasonal episode for Suicide Squad. It'll mark the final battle, yada yada yada. All online features will continue to be available. You'll be able to do co-op. Previous seasonal and episodic stuff will be made available. You'll be able to play the game offline. That will also include post-launch seasonal shit as well. Yeah. Like, they made a better go of it than fucking Concord. I think there's an article somewhere to say that, like, Suicide Squad was the biggest flop of 2024, and it's like, it's not. Concord was. Concord was definitely the biggest flop. You could make an argument that the Warner Brothers or the Suicide Squad Justice League license, and the fact that with that license the game still flopped, that makes it a bigger flop, maybe. Because Concord was a brand new IP that people didn't really know much you could potentially make the argument that that made it a bigger flop. I don't know. It still got almost a year out of it. Now, only making barely making a year. In fact, I don't think it did make a year. Um, by the time the last part of it comes out, it'll be January. I don't think the game did launch until end of February, so it wasn't even a year. It was a $200 million loss on the game. I think Concord was something similar. 250 million, I think, was Concord. Sure. What's 50 million between friends? Anyway, something I wanted to say about this, and I can't remember what it is now. I think it was, yeah, it was this. It's like it's currently 95% off, or not currently. At a recent sale, it was 95% off. And I was thinking, when was the last time I saw like a high-profile game have that significant a discount? And it was Anthem. So it's on par. It's on par with Anthem, right? Anyway, it's the end of Suicide Squad. Moving on, right? Some better news. Former Gearbox, id, and Warner veterans form a new publisher, Cool Down Games. This is from industry veterans across a bunch of other publishers. Previously worked at Gearbox, yada yada yada. They've got several years of experience together now. Kind of interesting though is that the specific focus for this publisher. So they're called Cool Down Games, and the cool down part is kind of pertinent. We're going to be focusing on titles that will seamlessly fit into the hectic work and game life balance of modern gamers, according to the announcement. We want players that can enjoy, or games that players can enjoy at their own pace without the need of large time investments to join in or keep up. Seems like it's a bit of a slight against the live service grindy mentality that some of the bigger publishers have nowadays. Our team is confident rational business models will be a long-term strength of Cool Down Games, that just might be a refreshing contrast from many recent industry trends, like we're going to turn this game into a new job for you, and you have to play it every single day, all day. Never mind that you have another job, the one that pays you. Anyway. Right. Former Marathon reboot director sues Sony and Bungie for $200 million, claiming wrongful dismissal. He's get it from Concord, I guess. Right, so this is from Christopher Barrett, who's bringing the lawsuit against Bungie and Sony. He was let go 2 months ago, maybe. Alleged, what was it? It was alleged sexual harassment, I think, was the deal. So the lawsuit is basically saying that Sony and Bungie deliberately destroyed his reputation by falsely and publicly insinuating he had engaged in sexual misconduct. So there was a report from Jason Schreier from Bloomberg reporting on what was going on with Christopher Barrett, that he was fired from the studio following an internal investigation into accusations of inappropriate behavior filed by at least 8 female employees. Barrett is alleging that didn't happen, I guess. So at the time when he was asked to respond about it, he had a kind of fake apology. If anyone ever felt that way about their interaction with me, I am truly sorry. Which is not an apology. Despite it having the word sorry in it, it has so many caveats in front of it that it's not an apology. Anyway. He's come back later to basically say that they did not care, that none of it was actually true. They had blatant motivations for their brazen scheme. 1, to avoid paying me the nearly $50 million owed under my employment agreement, and 2, to shift blame for and deflect away from their massive business failures. I mean, I don't think they actually succeeded in doing that. But anyway. So he's alleging that it was some kind of sham internal investigation, that they read into things in the communications that weren't there. They were basically looking for a reason to fire him, and they used this investigation as the means to do so. Anyway, he's alleging that no one ever told him who had made the decision to fire him, or even what conduct specifically he was being fired for. They wrongfully have retained $50 million owed to Barrett of his stock in Bungie. Now, he might have a case here because they've withheld payment, essentially. That's a absolutely disgusting amount of money. But if they agreed in the contract, then he should have it anyway. He's alleging that they completed the Machiavellian trifecta by providing wildly misleading statements to Bloomberg designed to deflect blame for Sony's poor performance. Coors performing 3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie and delays in video game production by casting shade on Barrett for his role in Marathon, and 2, to shift blame for their own public Me Too problems by falsely insinuating that the accusations of severe misconduct had been directed at Barrett when they had not. I'm not sure he's got grounds for that one. Me Too, these hashtag Me Too problems that he points out, the fact that he even used that is a bit, suspect. But these were happening before Sony acquired Bungie. Anyway. But probably the biggest brass balls one that I saw here is that as part of the damages, right? So 200 million in damages, 45 million that he's allegedly owed under his employment terms. The same again for violating Wage Rebate Act, so double it essentially. And then not less than 100 million because of defamation and punitive stuff. So on top of all that, he also wants to be reinstated as director for Marathon. Like, the fucking balls. I mean, Jesus Christ. Maybe he'll get some money, but you're not getting that. That's not happening. You think if they had to shell out 200 million to you, that they're gonna let you be in charge of any project? No. I mean, hilarious if it actually happens. Speaking of Sony, Sony confirms interest in acquiring Elden Ring developer from Software's parent company. So this is, again, news from Kadokawa Corporation and Sony. So Kadokawa are the parent company for From Software. It's From Software, Acquire, and Dangan Entertainment, I think. And then a bunch of anime as well on top of that. And likely the real reason Sony want to acquire them, because that would essentially make Sony the de facto anime streamer company. Pretty much gives them a monopoly. It's also a reason why the merger might not go ahead. Anyway, Sony have now confirmed that, yes, they have officially confirmed their interest in acquiring Kadokawa Corporation. No decision has been made as to whether it's going to happen. And Sony are like, cool, yes, it's true, we have made an initial statement of interest. We would appreciate it if you would stop asking us to talk about it, pretty much. We'd appreciate it if you would allow us to refrain from further comment. Like, if they are in talks for, a merger or an acquisition, it does make sense that nobody wants to actually say anything on the record to the press because it might fuck up negotiations. And the other reason is it's going to make the stock price go all over the place. So, yeah, they want to keep this one on the down low. Anyway. What is kind of interesting is there was kind of reports out of Busan that claimed that some employees at Kadokawa would welcome Sony acquiring them due to unhappiness with current Kadokawa president and CEO as their administration. So this kind of reminds me of Activision employees who were kind of looking forward to being acquired by Microsoft. Of course, that was answered with layoffs. So, be careful what you wish for, I guess. We'll see. We'll see what comes out of that. But yes, it's now confirmation that both Kadokawa. This is confirmation from Kadokawa and Sony that there are acquisition talks in the works. Speaking of acquisitions, Nintendo owns Monolith Software after completing stake buyout. So Nintendo have sort of pretty much owned Monolith Soft up until now. They had like a 96% stock share or something ridiculous. Anyway, that they pretty much owned the company, and now they have 100%. That's really all this story is. Anyway, they've bought the remaining stake. Nintendo now owns all 2,400 shares. So going back to like 2007, they've had a pretty significant share of the shares. I was trying to think of a better word for it. That's pretty much had that. They had an 80% stake in 2007. Then it went up to 96% in 2011. It went up to 2,230 shares in October of this year, and now 2,400. So they own all of it. Yeah, so they've pretty much owned Monolith Soft for a significant amount of time, but now it's confirmed for definite that it's an entirely first party studio. So 2008 was when Monolith started making stuff for Nintendo. I'm not sure what was the first game they made for them, but they had made other games for other studios. So they did make Xenosaga for PlayStation 2. Uh, Another Xenosaga game was for like mobile devices, but the vast majority of their work has been for Nintendo. Baten Kaitos, Project X Zone, the Xenoblade Chronicles games, which are 4 of them now. And then probably the real reason that Nintendo have decided to go 100% in on them is that they have been a co-developer on the last 2. Sorry, not the last 2. Previously, the last 2, I guess. Echoes of Wisdom came out after that. Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom was Monolith Soft, and it says co-developer. They were kind of like primary developer on that. Anyway, then they worked on some of the Splatoon games, and they've been on a lot of the Animal Crossing stuff as well. So they've done a lot of heavy lifting for Nintendo. It would make sense that they're just gotta make sure that they don't go anywhere. Okay, the last thing we want to talk about is kind of something really fucking stupid that happened during the week. So during the week, itch.io went down for about an hour, maybe 2 hours. And on social media, Blue Sky, Twitter, what have you, itch.io said that the Funko Pop guys, had basically asked the registrar to delist their website so people couldn't get there, which is pretty nuts. Why are the Funko guys getting in on this? Anyway, so this story has several entities demonstrating complete incompetence in how they do business and making a victim out of an innocent website. So, at the center of this is an AI-driven thing. So it's an AI-driven brand protection partner named Brand Shield, which is who Funko were using. They sent a takedown request to the registrar is hosting itch.io's website that accused them of basically the wrong thing. They accused them of a much more serious violation than what was actually there, and arguably what was actually there wasn't a violation in the first place, but whatever. Anyway, Brand Shield's AI-powered web crawler found a page on itch.io for Funko Fusion, which is a very real Funko game. It's shit, but it is an officially licensed Funko game. It's not available on itch.io, so it's a fan page. So itch isn't just a storefront, it's kind of like a repository for a lot of just general user-generated stuff. So I don't know how you're a fan of Funko Fusion, but whatever. So that's what it found. The page linked back to like the official websites, directed you to Steam to download the game if you wanted to, and so on and so forth. But apparently that was infringement. So Brand Shield's AI thing decided that this was fraud and phishing with PH, which it definitely is not. They have an argument that maybe it's like improper use of IP, which would be a DMCA takedown, which is fairly minor, pretty standard, very easy to rectify. Fraud and phishing is a much bigger problem. That's like legal issues. That's the whole site gets taken down, which is what happened. Anyway, reported the page as fraud and phishing. Nobody knows why it did that. Anyway, itch.io took down the offending page because DMCA thing, that's kind of what you do. DMCA thing is you take it down and then figure out if it was actually an issue or not. They notified the registrar that they had taken it down. For some reason, the registrar either didn't get the message or just ignored it entirely, because then they took the whole domain down entirely. So itch.io, if you typed itch.io into your browser, nothing would come up. If you happen to know its IP address, you could still get there that way. But I mean, how many website IPs do you know off the top of your head? I know Google's, and that's it. That's only because you kind of needed to fix DNS issues. But otherwise, I don't know any other website's IP address. Anyway, Funko reached out quickly because at this point, itch.io guy had posted to Twitter saying, like, what the actual fuck is going on. So Funko reaches out to Itch, wanting to be like, hey, how can we fix this? We didn't really mean for this to happen. This was our other guy that we contracted was being a dickhead. But they're also saying that Brand Shield didn't request the entire domain to be taken down, except they kind of did because they said it was fraud and phishing and not a DMCA violation. Like I said, fraud and phishing is a much bigger issue to levy at the site. Anyway, we still don't know why it decided to be a fraud and phishing thing. Brand Shield tried to tweet their way through it, but the community notes just kind of apart. Anyway, the domain was taken down despite itch.io taking the action requested. So they did everything right, and their site still got taken down. It's kind of the crux of the issue here, and that it was all done by an AI thing that just brain farted. Or it didn't brain fart, because that's how the technology works. It's bad. It's a bad technology. Stop using it. Well, that's not going to happen. Anyway, itch.io claims that's... Oh, yeah. The story somehow gets weirder. Anyway, itch.io claims that somebody at Funko called their mom. This is not a joke. Funko just called my mom. Mom sent him a text message. Got a strange call from a company about accusatory statements on your social media account. Please call me. What? Funko does not deny it. Somebody at Funko called Itch's mom and was like, hey, could you get them to take down their tweet where they say bad things about us? Anyway, they did eventually figure it out, and itch.io was back up within an hour or 2 hours or so, but... What the fuck, Funko? What are you doing? It's not bad enough you put out those weird soulless dolls. You have to take down innocent indie websites while you're at it. Okay, so over on the community side of things, Capcom has announced a Capcom Games competition for university students. Applications open until around middle of January. So imagine this is Japan-based. Competition for students in Japan. Yeah, no, it makes it Japan-based. But it does mean they do get to use the Resident Evil engine, which is a pretty powerful engine. You've seen it used in a lot of Capcom's games now, and it makes things look nice. Anyway, some pretty cool things here, and some also they've addressed what are usually the criticisms leveled at these kind of corporate-backed competitions. Is that the corporation then owns the work, or they have no intention of commercializing it, or they're going to use those ideas later on in one of their own games and not give any credit and that kind of thing. So they're fully addressing that criticism, is that there is an opportunity for commercialization for award winners, and that the teams will retain ownership and copyright of their games and assets. So Capcom is not claiming any ownership. What happens here? Possibility when they go through the commercialization process, Capcom becomes the publisher, and in that case, then there might be a share in the IP or something like that. But as it stands, just submitting something into the competition doesn't mean Capcom just gets ownership of it. And for Capcom's part, why are they holding the competition? They want to strengthen the video game industry and serve as a responsible corporate citizen. Cool. That's actually a good thing. That was not a sarcastic cool. I know it sounded like it. The responsible corporate citizen line actually goes back to like post World War II. And it was essentially, what was the role of business? What was the role of corporate entities, factories, that kind of thing? What was their purpose in society? What was the benefit to society to have them? And the deal was, people will work in the factory, and we will, pay them and so on, but we will also give back to the community, because the community is impacted by having the factory in their village. Let's say, whatever the output from pollution-wise or extra traffic on the road or any of that kind of stuff. All the workers flooding into town on their lunch break, any of that kind of stuff. And the idea was a responsible corporate citizen is that the factory would either subsidize the village or pay for improvements in infrastructure in the village, because on top of that it made getting goods in and out of the factory easier because the roads were better, but it also made the lives of their employees better, and it made the lives of the people who lived in and around there better. They would treat the factory better and so on, and it would just be like symbiotic thing. And then somebody put out a book, and I don't remember his name. It's Jack something, Welch, maybe. And he basically said that the only purpose a business, corporation, whatever has is to make money. And that's it. It's to make money for shareholders, make number go up. And ever since then, the responsible corporate citizen thing has gone. It's just make number go up now. That was post World War II. 60s maybe. 60s or 70s. That's when it started. Reagan made it worse, obviously. Reagan just accelerated. That's when it started. It's Jack Welch. Let's see if I can find his name. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out because Japan still kind of has that responsible thing. Not to the same degree that post World War II, all those countries did have it, but they do still kind of have that mindset. At least Capcom does. Anyway, we'll leave Legacy of Kain to loop. Anyway, that was the news for the 9th to the 15th of December, 2024. Sorry I was in the wrong scene for a little bit at the beginning. Again, still working out some kinks on the new PC. The new PC is working out pretty well for the most part. I haven't tried to play a game on it yet, so we'll see. The old PC was a potato. PC specs are decent. Like, as I said, I didn't go all in for like a big gaming rig because I just don't have the money for it. I'm saving up for one, but then the old PC kind of shit itself, and I needed a new one. So savings for the gaming rig at least have taken a bit of a dent. Anyway, we'll see how it works out. As I said, I haven't tried to play a game on it or record. This is the first recording I've done, so we'll see how the audio levels have worked out and how much of my profile backups actually came across. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes OBS likes to go, no, this thing that's identical to the thing you did on the old PC? No, I'm not fixing that. Fuck you. Why you like this OBS? Anyway, so the Game Awards, fine. I don't think it was last year's Game Awards, but I think it was the Game Awards before that, where Jeff was like, people are sick of seeing fully CG trailers with no actual gameplay. It's like every trailer in the awards show will be gameplay based. And even then, it wasn't a trailer. But at least he addressed that, and it sure seemed like having a trailer with gameplay in it was an exception at this year's Game Awards. A lot of them were just pre-rendered CG stuff or cutscenes. Like, in-engine cutscenes, fine, but not gameplay. You weren't getting an idea of how the game actually fucking plays. So that would be a criticism this year. Other than that, it wasn't as crass as it usually feels. I know it felt a little bit better. We didn't have the please wrap it up sign. People got a lot more time to speak. And it didn't seem like they went egregiously overtime when they're speaking either. People still kept it pretty short and snappy. We didn't have the ridiculous please wrap it up thing. The musical medley that they kind of do for the Game of the Year stuff was good, as usual. I really like that. It's the best part of the Game Awards, really. Otherwise, I think a lot of the winners made sense. Balatro had a lot of stuff. Metaphor, Fantasio got a lot of things as well. Astrobot picked up quite a few nods. Final Fantasy VII got the one for music, I think. And Fantasy VII has amazing music, so obvious. I think they were, for the most part, the ones I understood at least. I mean, there were a couple of ones there for like esports and like influencer. And I have no idea who any of these people are, so no idea if those were correct. There were a lot of showcases. I pointed out a few. There were more than that. There were even more. I think there's 3 or 4 that I haven't seen yet. Some games would have been repeated across some of those showcases, but there might be like unique ones in there. If you are so inclined to go do a deep dive, I will probably do one at some point. We might have a look at one of those showcases next week. Outside of all of the showcase stuff, AI Limit looks interesting. It is coming out end of March, and there's a shit ton of games coming out almost on the exact same day as it. So that's probably gonna get buried. I think Atomfall comes out the same day, which is that kind of United Kingdom stalker type thing. There's something else that comes out the same day. I forget what it is. PlayStation Plus catalog thing looked decent. Sonic Frontiers I've been interested to play, but I had no intention of ever spending full price on it. I don't know if I'd like it. I kind of go back and forth on whether I like Sonic or not. Because I kind of like the precision platforming of things like. I don't think anyone would necessarily call Mario a precision platformer, but compared to Sonic the Hedgehog, he's a precision platformer. And I don't like how like messy Sonic is because he's just fast. You jump and hope for the best a lot of time. That's the feeling I always get with Sonic's games. So I don't know. Anyway, since I'm already subscribed to PlayStation Plus, I can check that out. And that Star Wars VR game, similarly, I didn't want to pay for it because motion sickness. I don't really get the VR motion sickness, but I did get it with that. But it's also Star Wars, so I did want to I want to play it, but I'm not paying for something that makes me sick. So yeah, again, being able to just play it on the subscription is decent. New releases, Soul Reaver 1 and 2, they're some of my favorite games. So I'm really, really excited to play that. I will be saving it for the channel, so we probably won't get to it until next year at some stage. Because I do want to play. I want to play at least Blood Omen 1. Blood Omen 2 is kind of its own story. It doesn't really factor into the main. It doesn't really factor in until the end, and even then, not really. Blood Omen 1 is kind of important. It kind of sets the stage for Soul Reaver. So I think we will play Blood Omen first, and then we'll do the 2 Soul Reavers. And then figure out how to play Defiance. Because I don't think the PC port's great. So if that doesn't get put on the GOG preservation thing, I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do Defiance. Anyway. Jumping ahead, industry bullshit, still layoffs, still going. Like they haven't stopped. They haven't even let up. We're coming up on almost 30,000 or something now. It's insane. The kind of just devastation that the industry has gone through the last year or so. And many people at the Game Awards speeches did talk about it. Like again, I would encourage you to listen to Sven Vicky's speech. Gate 3 creative, because he said a lot of things that I've been saying, but he said a lot of things that I think people in the industry also feel and maybe don't feel like they have the power to say it, I guess. I don't know. Got the thing from the Cooldown Games publishers saying that games that actually respect their players' time aren't massive grind fests, and the bigger publishers don't give a shit. They want number go up. They don't care if the game actually plays well. I think Astrobot winning Game of the Year, you would think it would signify to publishers that the gameplay is the important bit. But you could say that for every Game of the Year winner. Baldur's Gate 3 was again attention to detail. People really, really like that. All we're getting is live service slop for the last however many years. Anyway, the community thing with Capcom running their competition. Namco Bandai do something like that, but they do it with their interns instead. And they get games like Doronko Wonko, which is that like Pomeranian game where the dog just makes a complete mess of the house. Like that was an intern's sort of presentation. The demo of it was free. Yeah, that kind of thing. Just fun little weird gameplay things, and it would be pretty cool if we get that out of Capcom's competition. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. It's still going to be like a university student game, but some of them can turn into really, really interesting things. So it's nice. It's nice to see. And hopefully, they aren't going to pull a shitty corporate thing where they take a really cool gimmick that some university student came up with and give them no credit for whatsoever and turn it into the next big thing. That would be pretty shit. Don't do that, Capcom. The great stuff coming out of the Game Awards from Capcom, though, Onimusha, Okami, they're obviously years away. Capcom are going to be focused on Monster Hunter Wilds next year, and possibly another Resident Evil remake. Maybe Code Veronica, possibly, or Resident Evil 9. Just continue the story instead, or something else. Who knows? But they have come out since the Game Awards talking about it. Hey, why Onimusha? Why Okami? Why after all this time? So they basically said that we're looking to resurrect like dormant IP. So Dino Crisis, it might still happen. But there's Dino Crisis, Mega Man, Breath of Fire. There's a lot of Capcom IP that has been left to sleep for a long time now. I would love another Breath of Fire. I'd love a Dino Crisis. I think we have enough Mega Man, to be perfectly honest. There's so many of them. But obviously, big Mega Man fans would be like, no, shut up, buddy. make another Mega Man. But yeah, I'd be happy with any of them. Capcom have been doing a pretty good job the last 4 or 5 years. They've been doing pretty well. Are they almost back to Cap God levels? Possibly. Anyway, we're gonna leave it there. Thanks for keeping me company. Probably be back next week at some stage with the new PC. I am going to start trying do game capture, and if game capture is working well, we might start doing some more streams. But yeah, that was the bottleneck for the last while. I mean, it was mental health for a good while as well. It wasn't anything to do with the PC. I was just not in a good place to do game streaming. Feeling a bit better about it now, but then the PC just refused to do internet for a good long time, or refused to do it a reliable amount. So this new one, hopefully things work out. We might get back to doing some game streaming this side of Christmas instead of next year. Coming up later on, we will be doing like a review of the stream for this year, and looking ahead to see what games are coming out next year and what games might appear on the channel next year. But yeah, that'll be later on, and I'll talk about it on the Discord or on social media. You can find me Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm on both. Doomtrain5. Right, have a good one, and I'll see you guys when I see you. Bye.